In the eyes of a faithful Christian, the act of detaching from the chaos around us is more than a personal choice, it is a divine act of trust in God's plan. We are reminded in Romans 8 verse 28 that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. When you choose peace over drama, when you step away from toxic situations, you are not just protecting your mental and emotional well-being, you are actively trusting in God's sovereign will for your life. Yes, the world may resent you for walking away, for not indulging in their conflicts, but take comfort in Matthew 5 verse 11 to 12, where Jesus says, "Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you, because of me. Rejoice and be glad. Because great is your reward in heaven. The chaos of others may unsettle them, but your ability to remain centered in God's peace is a testament to your faith in His timing and provision." When you step away, the world may feel shaken, but it is not your responsibility to fix or force peace into spaces where God has not called you to remain. Philippians 4 verse 7 promises that the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. This peace becomes a shield, protecting you not just from the chaos, but from the lies and the dissonance that seek to draw you into conflict. Your detachment is not an abandonment of others, it is an act of spiritual obedience. You allow them the space to face their own reflection. Just as 2 Corinthians 13 verse 5 calls us to examine ourselves, sometimes it takes stepping back for others to recognize their own need for change. Never feel guilty for protecting the peace that God has given you, for in doing so, you are honoring His plan for your life and your soul's well-being. 1. Boundaries as armor, not chains. Your ability to set boundaries is one of the most powerful tools you have. But let's make something clear: boundaries are not about being mean or heartless, they are about survival. Setting boundaries is an act of self-preservation. When you choose to distance yourself from certain people or situations, it's not out of pettiness, it's because you've learned, sometimes the hard way, that not everyone deserves to have access to you. You've seen firsthand how toxic relationships can drain your energy, weaken your resolve, and rob you of your peace. That's why you draw the line. Boundaries aren't restrictions, they're shields. They act as armor that protects your energy, your sense of self, and your ability to stay focused on what matters most in your life. You have dreams, ambitions, and a purpose that can't afford to be compromised by people who take more than they give. And here's the kicker: most people don't even realize they've crossed a line until you set it. They're stunned when you assert yourself because they never expected you to stand your ground. They thought they could continue their drama, their manipulation, their excuses, and you would just tolerate it. But here's the thing: you're not here to be anyone's emotional punching bag. You're not anyone's unpaid therapist. You've got bigger things to focus on, goals to achieve, and a life to live. When you finally decide to cut someone off, it's like flipping a switch. They might fall backward, shocked and confused, but not because they didn't see it coming. It's because they never truly believed that you would take the necessary action to protect your own space. What makes your boundaries so powerful is not just the fact that you draw them, but the fact that they are non-negotiable. They're not put in place to punish anyone. They are in place because you understand that your self-worth and inner peace are worth far more than engaging with toxic people or situations. People who thrive on drama and manipulation don't know how to handle someone who refuses to engage. They can't handle someone who walks away with their head held high, unshaken and confident. That's why your boundaries are like armor. They don't lock you in, they keep the nonsense out. You're not being cruel. You're being honest, and honesty in a world filled with blurred lines hits harder than any insult ever could. 2. You saw the web before they spun it. You have an extraordinary gift that not everyone understands. You can sense drama before it even begins. It's not magic or some other worldly power, it's experience. It's your intuition, finely tuned by countless encounters with people who thrive on chaos. You've learned the subtle signs, the shifts in tone, the passive-aggressive behavior, the energy that screams, "This is going to be trouble." You don't wait for the blow-up or the betrayal to make your move. You act when you see the red flags long before they come into full view. What's remarkable about this gift is that it's not born out of fear, but out of clarity. You've been burned enough times to understand the patterns of manipulation and toxicity. You've seen how people try to trap others in their webs of dysfunction, and you've learned that staying too long only makes the mess harder to escape. You refuse to be caught in their drama, their lies, their webs of deceit. So, when you sense that trouble is brewing, you step away long before they can drag you into the chaos. The timing of your exit is what rattles people the most. They can't understand how you saw it coming. They've built their narrative, gathered their tools of manipulation, and yet you walk away before they even get the chance to play their game. You've flipped the script on them. They don't get to control the situation, and they certainly don't get to enjoy the satisfaction of seeing their plan unfold. By the time they realize what's happening, you're already gone. You've exited the stage, leaving them to deal with the consequences of their own schemes. This ability to see through the mess and know when to leave isn't just about protecting yourself, it's about refusing to be a pawn in someone else's game. You understand that not every battle needs to be fought, not every argument needs to be had, and not every person deserves a front row seat in your life. When you walk away, it's because you know that the only way to win is to not play their game at all. They may try to figure out how you knew, but the truth is, you don't have to explain yourself. The power lies in your ability to trust your instincts and to walk away when you sense the storm coming. 3. Not a power move, a peace move. Walking away is often misunderstood. Many people view it as an act of control, a way to gain the upper hand or assert dominance. They think it's about winning some invisible battle, proving a point, or showing who's in charge. But for you, walking away is none of that. It's not about controlling others, it's about controlling yourself. You choose peace over chaos, and that choice requires immense strength. You walk away not because you want to punish anyone, but because your peace, your mental health, and your sense of well-being matter far more than staying in a situation that drains you emotionally, mentally, and physically. Choosing peace over conflict is not a sign of weakness, but of immense personal strength. When you walk away from chaos, you aren't running away from the problem, you're making a powerful decision to preserve your inner harmony. You understand that some situations, no matter how much you care or want to help, are just not worth the emotional investment they demand. You choose to invest in yourself, to protect the peace that you've worked so hard to cultivate. The beauty of choosing peace is that it shifts your energy entirely. Once you walk away, you're no longer tangled in their mess. You are free to focus on what truly matters: yourself, your growth, your future. You no longer waste time and energy on people who only bring chaos into your life. And while they might see your decision as a loss of control, for you, it's a gain of clarity, freedom, and a quiet mind. It's not about proving anything to anyone. You don't walk away to show them what they lost. You walk away because you're done losing pieces of yourself. And in a world that thrives on conflict and drama, choosing peace is the most powerful move you can make. It's not just a way out, it's the way forward. What's difficult for others to understand is that they often project their own insecurities onto your decision. They see your exit as a power move, because that's what they would do. They would stay, fight to prove their point, to regain control, or to be right. But that's not your way. You don't fight, you opt out. And that confuses them, because they don't know how to handle someone who won't engage in their drama, who won't play their games. Your strength lies in your ability to walk away without looking back. You understand that staying in toxic environments not only harms you, but also prevents you from truly growing. You've learned through painful experience that staying in toxic situations isn't noble, it's self-destructive. The longer you stay, the more pieces of yourself you lose. You may start out strong, but eventually, the emotional cost becomes too high. You lose your clarity, your sense of purpose, and your peace. So when you finally make the decision to leave, it's not out of aggression, it's an act of self-respect. You're telling yourself, I matter. My peace matters. My mental health matters. Walking away is a statement of self-love, and a reminder to never settle for less than you deserve. 4. You disrupt their dependency on your energy. There's something about your energy that draws people in. It's not just your kindness or your strength, it's the way you make others feel seen, supported, and understood. For many, your presence becomes a lifeline, a source of comfort they didn't realize they were relying on so heavily. You have this gift of making people feel like they matter, and in doing so, you unknowingly become a cornerstone in their emotional well-being. However, this is where things can get tricky. What really unsettles them is the realization that they can no longer access what you provided so freely: your wisdom, your encouragement, your light. They're forced to face the emptiness they've been masking with your energy, and that kind of self-reflection is terrifying for someone who spent their life avoiding it. You don't leave to hurt them, you leave because you're tired of carrying what isn't yours. And while they might resent you for walking away, deep down they know they needed it. Sometimes losing you is the wake-up call they never saw coming, and sometimes it's the only way they'll ever learn to stand on their own. But here's the thing, some people don't just appreciate your energy, they start depending on it. When you decide to walk away, it's like pulling the rug out from under them. Suddenly, the emotional scaffolding they've built around your support collapses. They're left standing in the void they were using you to fill, and they don't know what to do with it. They might feel abandoned or lost, but this is a part of their growth that they can't avoid any longer. Your departure forces them to confront a truth they've been avoiding. They've been leaning on you to avoid doing the inner work for themselves. This isn't about arrogance or thinking you're better than anyone, it's about recognizing patterns. You see how some people only come around when they need something, how they feed off your positivity without ever giving back. It's not a fair exchange, and you know it. Walking away isn't punishment, it's a necessary reset. It's a chance for both you and them to heal and grow separately, rather than being stuck in a cycle of dependency that does no one any good. 5. Drama can't survive in the light you carry. Drama feeds on darkness. It needs secrecy, manipulation, and emotional chaos to survive. People who bring drama into your life often rely on confusion and turmoil to keep control. But here's the thing about you, your energy doesn't leave room for any of that. You're too clear, too centered, and too focused on truth for their drama to thrive. When you walk into a situation, your light has a way of exposing the nonsense for what it is. You don't need to fight or argue, you simply let your presence shine, and the drama dissolves. It can't survive in the light you carry. You don't feed into chaos or allow yourself to be drawn into unnecessary conflict. When others try to create drama around you, they quickly realize that it doesn't have the same effect. Your peace becomes a barrier they can't penetrate. It's not about ignoring the drama, it's about not letting it affect you. You've mastered the art of detachment, knowing when to walk away and when to let things go. And as a result, you become a sanctuary for those who are tired of the noise and just want a moment of stillness. People who thrive on drama quickly fade away, unable to manipulate the situation when your presence is too pure, too authentic. Your light illuminates the truth, and once the truth is exposed, drama becomes impossible to sustain. The clarity you bring to any situation forces people to confront their own behavior and the patterns they've been trying to hide. You don't need to argue or engage in toxic back and forth. You just stand in your truth, and in that, the drama withers away. You create an environment where peace and truth can flourish, and drama simply has no room to grow. The audacity of self-preservation. There's an unspoken rule in society, a societal expectation that you're supposed to stay in situations, relationships, and environments that drain you. You're supposed to stay in toxic relationships because of history, stay in draining friendships because of loyalty, and stay in situations that deplete you because walking away might hurt someone else. There is this pressure to remain, to endure, as if doing so makes you noble or virtuous. But here's the uncomfortable truth: staying isn't always an act of love. Sometimes it's an act of self-betrayal. It's a silent agreement to ignore your needs and your well-being for the sake of others, and it takes its toll over time. And when you finally choose to prioritize yourself instead, when you make the decision to walk away for your own mental and emotional health, it's often seen as audacious, as if you've done something wrong. But in reality, choosing yourself is the most powerful act of self-respect you can offer, and it takes immense courage to do so. Let's be real, walking away isn't easy. The world conditions you to put others first, to be the fixer, the listener, the one who absorbs the hits. You are expected to be the one who stays calm when everything around you is falling apart, the one who stays present and supportive when you're being drained dry. Society rewards the martyr, the person who sacrifices themselves for the sake of others. But there comes a point, a breaking point, where you realize that staying is no longer an act of love, it's an act of self-destruction. It's not love when your own soul is left in tatters because you've given everything to people who won't give anything back. Walking away, in this case, is not giving up. It's choosing to survive. It's choosing to preserve your peace, your happiness, and your well-being. The audacity of self-preservation lies in doing what others won't, breaking the cycle of self-sacrifice and choosing to break free. It's about unapologetically choosing your peace over their expectations, even when it feels like the world is judging you. While others may never understand your decision, deep down, you will know that it was the only choice you could have made for your own growth. When you finally walk away, it's not just about the absence of your presence. People don't just feel you're gone, they feel exposed. They were counting on your patience, your forgiveness, your willingness to endure their chaos for them. You were the one who tolerated their actions, the one who stayed despite the toll it took on you, and suddenly you're no longer there. Your presence was often the glue that held their facade together, the validation they needed to maintain their carefully constructed image. They expected you to always be there, to always endure their drama, to always put them first. But when you make the bold choice to prioritize yourself, it's not seen as a peaceful act of self-love, it's often viewed as betrayal. It's not because you've wronged them, it's because for the first time you've shattered the illusion that their needs matter more than your own. Choosing self-preservation is rarely met with applause. More often than not, it's met with judgment. People will accuse you of being selfish, as if pouring from an empty cup was ever sustainable. But the truth is that selfishness isn't the same as self-care. What they call selfish is actually you refusing to lose yourself for the sake of others. What's even more revealing is the way people react when you walk away. Walking away has a unique way of pulling back the curtain on people's true nature. When you leave, the mask they wore, the mask you might have overlooked or even admired, starts to slip. The image they've worked so hard to maintain begins to crumble, and the truth that they've been hiding comes rushing to the surface. Suddenly their true motives become crystal clear. You start to see who they really are, not who they pretended to be. Maybe it's the way they lash out, trying to make you feel guilty for choosing yourself over them. They may try to twist the story, painting you as the villain so that they don't have to take responsibility for their actions. Or perhaps it's their silence, their refusal to even acknowledge your absence, that speaks volumes. When they don't acknowledge your decision to walk away, it shows just how little they valued you, how little they truly understood the impact of your presence in their lives. Your exit forces them to show their true hand, and in many cases they're not happy with the reflection they see in the mirror. People who thrive on appearances cannot handle losing their audience. They relied on you to validate their version of events, to go along with the narrative that painted them in the best possible light. Without you, their story falls apart, and they can no longer maintain the act on their own. The most telling thing about their reactions is how quickly they shift. The person who once sang your praises may suddenly start tearing you down. The friend who claimed they had your back might now blame you for leaving. And in those reactions, you see them for who they truly are. Your exit isn't just a goodbye, it's a spotlight. It forces people to confront the truth about themselves, a truth that they were often too afraid or unwilling to see. For many, this truth is a harsh reality they're not ready to face. But for you, your exit is confirmation that leaving was the best decision you could have made. So, what happens after you've walked away? They begin to unravel. Without your energy to latch onto, without your attention feeding their chaos, their drama starts to collapse. It loses its power because it can't survive in the environment you've created. You've become the catalyst for their breakdown, not out of malice, but because your refusal to engage with their drama takes away the very thing that kept it alive. Without you in the picture, they no longer have anyone to direct their chaos at, and their world starts to crumble. That's when you leave, not out of anger, but out of self-preservation. You're not there to clean up their mess or fix what they refuse to face. Your life doesn't just expose the truth, it disrupts their entire way of operating. And when you walk away, it's not just an exit. It's the end of the story they thought they could control. In the end, the way you expose everything for what it truly is cannot be denied. The lies don't stick, the manipulation doesn't land, the chaos can't take root. It's not because you're calling people out or creating conflict. It's simply because you exist in a way that makes the drama painfully obvious. It's like holding up a mirror, and suddenly they have no choice but to see their mess for what it truly is. Your presence has a way of making everything clear, making their chaos visible in a way that they can't ignore. This is why your very presence can feel so threatening to those who thrive on drama. They can't spin their usual webs around you because you refuse to play along. You won't argue, you won't stoop to their level, and you certainly won't pretend that the problem isn't there. Your light forces them to confront their own darkness, and for many, that's a confrontation they're rarely prepared for. Choosing peace in the midst of chaos, a Christian perspective on walking away. In life, we often find ourselves in situations that pull us into conflict and confusion. Drama thrives on the fuel of engagement, debates, arguments, and the constant churn of emotions. But as a Christian, we are called to seek peace and avoid being drawn into the destructive web of chaos. The Bible offers guidance on how to navigate these turbulent waters, and one key lesson is knowing when to walk away. Just as Jesus taught us to be peacemakers, sometimes the best way to win a battle is not by arguing louder or longer, but by stepping away completely. The Apostle Paul, in his letter to the Romans, reminds us, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Romans 12 verse 18. This verse highlights the importance of striving for peace, but it also acknowledges that there are times when peace cannot be achieved by engaging in conflict. When we recognize manipulation, dishonesty, or an endless cycle of drama, we have the right, and perhaps even the responsibility, to remove ourselves from the situation. There is strength in knowing when to walk away, for in doing so we not only preserve our peace but also protect our hearts from being ensnared by the chaos of others. In Matthew 10 verse 14, Jesus himself instructed his disciples, "If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, leave that home or town and shake the dust off your feet here." Jesus models the act of walking away from those who are not open to peace. It's not an act of cowardice, but one of wisdom and discernment. It's a recognition that not all battles are ours to fight, and not all conversations are worth having. When we choose to step away, we are not abandoning the situation, but rather taking control of our response. We allow God to handle what is beyond our ability to change, trusting that He will work out His plan in His time. And the temptation to engage, to argue, and to explain ourselves can be overwhelming, especially when we feel misunderstood or unjustly treated. But as we learn in Proverbs 15 verse 1, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Engaging in the drama of an argument only feeds the cycle of tension. By choosing silence, we make a conscious decision to hold onto our peace, trusting that our silence speaks louder than any words ever could. Our refusal to engage becomes a testimony of our trust in God's plan for us. We do not need to prove ourselves to others, nor do we need to beg for validation. Our worth is not defined by the opinions of others, but by the love and grace of God. Walking away from conflict is not a sign of weakness. On the contrary, it is a manifestation of inner strength and clarity. It takes far more courage and discipline to walk away from a losing battle than to stay and fight endlessly. As Christians, we are called to be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46 verse 10. Stillness is not passivity, but a form of strength. It is a trust in God's sovereignty over every situation, knowing that we do not need to control everything or everyone. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply step away and let God handle the rest. When we remove ourselves from a situation that no longer serves our peace or growth, we are making a decision to conserve our energy for the things that truly matter. The Apostle Paul encourages us to focus on whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable. Philippians 4 verse 8. By choosing to redirect our energy away from conflict and toward things that align with our values and faith, we are actively pursuing spiritual growth and peace. This is not a denial of our responsibilities, but rather an intentional shift of focus to what brings us closer to God and to the fulfillment of His purpose for our lives. It is easy for others to misunderstand our decision to walk away. They may label it as cowardice, as though leaving a difficult situation means we are unable to handle it. But in reality, walking away often requires more strength than staying and fighting. As Proverbs 4 verse 23 advises, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. By walking away, we are protecting our hearts from being corrupted by bitterness, anger, or resentment. We are choosing to guard our peace, knowing that peace is not merely the absence of conflict, but the presence of God's tranquility in our lives. The act of walking away from conflict is a deliberate recalibration of our priorities. We stop investing energy in situations that drain us and instead make space for what nourishes our spirit. As we read in Matthew 6 verse 33, "But seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." By stepping away from the noise of worldly drama, we open ourselves to a deeper connection with God and to His purposes for our lives. We redirect our focus to what truly matters, which is our relationship with Him and the growth of His kingdom. For those who are left behind when we walk away, the absence we create can be unsettling. It forces them to confront their own behavior and face the consequences of their actions. When we are no longer there to absorb their mistakes or smooth over their flaws, they must reckon with the reality of their choices. This can lead to panic and confusion as they scramble to maintain control over a situation that no longer has our energy to sustain it. But as Christians, we understand that this process of self-reflection and accountability is necessary for spiritual growth. As Proverbs 28 verse 13 teaches us, "Whoever conceals their sins does not prosper, but the one who confesses and renounces them finds mercy." When we step away, we give others the opportunity to face the truth, to repent, and to seek forgiveness, either from God or from others. In walking away, we are not abandoning others, but allowing them to confront their own shortcomings. We do not need to explain ourselves or justify our actions. Our absence does all the talking. Our silence and distance speak louder than any words ever could. And in that silence, the truth begins to emerge. People who relied on our presence to shield them from the reality of their actions may try to shift the blame, but deep down, they know that they are responsible for the fallout. They can no longer hide behind our patience or willingness to overlook their flaws. It is in this moment that true transformation can begin. Ultimately, walking away from conflict is not an act of weakness, but one of divine wisdom. It is an act of trust in God's plan, a recognition that we do not need to control every situation, and that by stepping away, we are leaving room for God to work. As we trust in His timing and His purpose, we can rest in the assurance that He will guide us through every challenge, and we can move forward in peace, untouched by the chaos of the world. The peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Philippians 4 verse 7. In the end, it is this peace that empowers us to walk away and trust that God will handle what we cannot. In the walk of life, we often find ourselves at crossroads where decisions must be made not out of haste, but with the wisdom granted by faith and divine guidance. For many, moments of transformation are like a wake-up call that reverberates deep within, marking a significant change that echoes far beyond the present moment. However, the power of that wake-up call is not solely in the event itself, but in the choice to act upon it. Just as a tree must shed its leaves to grow, we too must sometimes step away from certain situations, relationships, or environments to grow into the person we are meant to be. As Christians, we are called to trust in the Lord's plan for our lives, which often requires us to let go of what is no longer in alignment with His will. Walking away from unhealthy patterns or toxic relationships is not simply a personal decision, it is a profound example to others of what it means to honor one's God-given self-worth and peace. In a world that constantly pressures us to conform and endure, we are reminded that peace is a gift that should never be compromised. As the Bible teaches in Philippians 4 verse 7, "And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." This peace, which surpasses all worldly understanding, is not something we should relinquish for the sake of others' comfort or our own fear of confrontation. When we choose to walk away, we disrupt the status quo. In doing so, we not only reclaim our own peace, but we also challenge those around us to reassess their boundaries and expectations. It is an act of strength and self-love that invites others to reflect upon their own lives and ask, if they can walk away, why can't I? By setting boundaries, we are not only honoring ourselves, but we are also subtly calling others to honor themselves as well. In the light of this truth, we can look to 1 Corinthians 6 verse 19 to 20, which reminds us, "Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own, you were bought at a price. Therefore honor God with your bodies." Our lives are meant to reflect God's glory, and part of this is refusing to tolerate mistreatment or compromise our integrity for the sake of others. For some, the act of walking away may be a catalyst for introspection, a moment where they begin to see the need to demand better treatment for themselves. However, not everyone is ready to accept the challenge that your decision presents. For some, it will feel like a threat, a confrontation of their own shortcomings and their inability to set similar boundaries. They may react with resentment or accuse you of selfishness, but deep within, they may recognize the courage it takes to make such a decision. This discomfort, while unsettling, is necessary for growth. It is a reminder that change does not come without struggle. Proverbs 27 verse 17 tells us, "As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another." Your decision to walk away, to set boundaries, can serve as a refining moment for those around you, even if they do not recognize it at first. Your departure serves as a mirror, a reflection that others cannot escape. Those who once relied on your patience, your kindness, and your willingness to smooth over their flaws will suddenly be confronted with their own unresolved issues. For too long, your presence may have allowed them to avoid dealing with the emotional and spiritual messes they had created. But when you walk away, the issues they have avoided are brought to the surface. They can no longer deflect or pretend that everything is fine. As in James 1 verse 23 to 24, which says, "Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in a mirror and, after looking at himself, goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like." By leaving, you force them to face the reality of their own dysfunction and the uncomfortable truth that they must now take responsibility for their actions. This process of reckoning is rarely easy. For many, it will be accompanied by feelings of panic, defensiveness, or even anger. But through this struggle, they are offered a choice to either embrace change or continue down the path of denial. As in Revelation 3 verse 19, "Those whom I love I rebuke and discipline." So be earnest and repent. The discomfort they feel is not a punishment, but an invitation to grow, to turn toward God, and to begin the healing process that only He can provide. When we choose to walk away, we are not abandoning others, we are choosing to reclaim our energy, our peace, and our self-respect. The world may perceive this as a weakness or an act of selfishness, but in the eyes of faith, it is one of the most powerful acts of self-love and clarity. Walking away from what no longer serves us is not a retreat, it is a movement towards spiritual wholeness and a deeper trust in God's plan for our lives. As we read in Matthew 11 verse 28 to 30, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." This rest, this peace, is what we must seek first, above all else. As we reflect on the impact of walking away, We understand that it sends ripples through every relationship, every environment, and every situation we leave behind. It is an invitation for others to do the same, to stop tolerating less than they deserve, to choose peace over drama, and to prioritize authenticity over pretense. When we leave, we are not just making a personal statement, we are offering others a chance to reevaluate their own lives, to reflect on their boundaries, and to reclaim their own peace. In the end, walking away is not about abandonment, it is about making space for growth, self-discovery, and the kind of relationships that uplift and nurture our spirits. When we choose to walk away from what no longer serves us, we make room for the person God has created us to be. As we read in Isaiah 43 verse 18 to 19, "Forget the former things, do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up, do you not perceive it?" We are not leaving behind a life of failure or loss, but walking toward the new things that God has prepared for us. And in that we find the greatest form of liberation, the freedom to be who we were always meant to be in Christ. So, the next time you make the decision to walk away, remember you are not abandoning anyone. You are simply walking toward the person God has destined you to become, leaving behind what no longer serves your highest good. And that in itself is the most powerful and transformative act you can make.